Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jainer. So today we'll be discussing The Stranger by Albert Camus. It's a novel by him. As you guys can see it, this is like a very old version of the novel. So if you guys happen to go check it out at your local libraries, you'll probably find a different version of this novel. So what I wanted to do with you guys is, basically give you a little background of how I came across this book, and yeah, like a reflection on the book. This video is not intended to be a summary of the book. I'm sure there's many out there who give a very detailed description with all of the details of what happened in the novel. This isn't a summary. This is more of a reflection, kind of like giving it a philosophical take or even mental health take. So first of all, in the title, "The Stranger," it begs the question. It begs the question: who is the stranger in the novel? What makes him different than other characters? Yeah, what is the main thing in the novel that marks the difference? And right off the bat, you kind of get the feeling from the main character that he's very dissociated. Um, he's different from everybody else, and he's also a person that is very detached. He's unwilling to put out his feelings out there just to please the rest of the characters in the novel. Um, I remember a scene at the very beginning that he attends the funeral of his mother, and somebody running the place is filled with curiosity and doubt because the main character, instead of like mourning for his mother and instead of staying after everybody leaves, he also decides to leave, and he doesn't shed a tear. And I feel like in my personal life, and maybe a lot of other people in their own life feel like, sometimes, even though everybody may be crying for whatever reason, sometimes even though everybody might be laughing for whatever reason, sometimes we just don't feel like it is our own, the best moment for us to also join the group. So I think Albert Camus, what he was getting at, what he was trying to describe, is a character that doesn't quite fit the norm, doesn't fit societal standards and you know um, ways of being. Um, and so at the very beginning of the novel, he says that he had not been close to his mom, and that he had learned how to live far from his mom. His mom had learned to live far from him. So there was a lack of connection when he's hit with the death of his mother. And also add to that by the time he shows up to the home where she was residing, um, he was very tired, pretty much fatigued, maybe from the trip. And so, all of the characters and maybe society as a whole is expecting him to show up and, be depressed, be sad, and just, be like, um, act in a way that has always been known to man. But Albert Camus, with the depiction of this character, he's trying to showcase, that there are other ways of being due to many other, explanations. Then many other things caught my attention that kind of like makes him a different character, or a unique person. he there is a few pages in the novel that go back and forth about a romance that he has with this chick. He They both go to the beach. I think they go to a pool and they hang out together. And this girl is trying to. She tells the main character. I think at one point she asked, "Do you love me?" And the main character felt like that question and even the idea of love might be to too big for him to digest, and it might be something out of his reach to fully understand maybe in the moment. And you can see that the girl that he's hanging out with, the one that asked him that question, it means a lot for her, if whether he loves her or not. But the main character then says, okay, if that makes you feel better, then I do love you. um, and it just makes me think how I've met a lot of people, and I've also been in those situations where I'm expected to say a certain word. I'm expected to behave in a certain way. I'm expected to please people in a certain way, but maybe it's not my time. Society, or maybe the mob, or a very large group of people forced me into certain positions that I do not want to take. And so that's another thing that the stranger perfectly showcases, that he's willing to say what maybe a lot of us have felt always, that it is not always that we feel good about saying certain things or behaving in a certain way. um, what else comes to mind? The stranger is a character who he says very minimal. um, I think there's this other character. I think it's the man who has the dog, or one of his friends, when they're like hanging out on the beach, and the main character ends up killing the Arab. So either um, one of the two just keep talking to him, and he's saying very minimal. And maybe they're trying to get him to say that he enjoys their friendship. And and so the main character isn't willing to compromise. He really doesn't have any feelings maybe at the moment. um, and then one of the hardest scenes, the one of the scenes that stands out the most for me, is at the very end of the novel, when he's visited by a father, a religious person. It could have been a bishop, yeah, a church character. So the main character is visited in the prison, and I think the religious person was trying to teach him about the gospel, about salvation, and how he can endure the suffering that he was going through behind those walls. But it presupposes that the main character was suffering, and that he was having a bad time, which maybe he was, but I don't think it quite sums up everything that he was experiencing, and it doesn't really quite sum up who he was as a person. So in those scenes, the interactions with the father, um, one it is made very clear that the main character is an atheist. and so they go back and forth with the discussion, about afterlife, and if he was scared of death. And what I get from the main character, who is a stranger in this case, is that he's not really concerned about things that are outside his reach. He even says that he has a hard time, with imagination, with thinking outside the box. So he's a very concrete character. He doesn't really compromise or let his mind wander outside of what is outside his reach. That's why he says, what does it matter, if I die today or if I die tomorrow? Life will continue, and more humans will be born after me, and then after those humans pass away, more humans will come. And he's really saying, take one day out of life, take one day at a time. I'm sorry, and just do not worry about the future. And perhaps there's also like a scene about when he's going through the judicial system, and they're like litigating his case. They're like he's going through the trial process. Perhaps there's a scene there where it showcases the bureaucracy and how all of a sudden he's the center of attention. And it begs the question, does this mean that only when one is going through trouble, when one has when one has caused the attention for the wrong reasons, that's the day when most people notice you? And so he didn't really like to be the center of attention. And I also felt that with that scene when he's going through the trial and all of that, there's it's almost impossible to think that the judges, the prosecutor, doesn't add an element that tries to humanize whatever is going on. But in doing so, they kind of like lose the objectivity, because the trial is really because he murdered an Arab, and there's either the judge or the prosecutor, he's trying to say that he's such a horrible person that he didn't even cry in his mother's funeral. And they're trying to really set him up as a person that's not worth, a person that doesn't have any value, a person that is heartless, that doesn't have a soul, a person that's soulless. They're really trying to set him up, and those are all the criticisms that they're trying to form to really condemn the man and make him serve prison for life. So it makes one think, when a person really is tried in court, and when a person is really tried to be understood, are we really try to be understood the way we are, or do we just get put in a system where other people rationalize about how we are and how we ought to be, instead of like really seeing us for who we are? And so guys, that was my reflection on The Stranger. I really recommend for you guys to pick it up. Here it is. And so thank you for tuning in.